I'm a 27-year-old guy, and my fiance, whom I'll call L, is a 26-year-old woman. My father, whom I'll refer to as B, is 52 years old, and my mother, whom I'll call R, is 50 years old. Like many who've gone through something like this, I never anticipated it happening to me, but here we are. Elle and I first met during her freshman year of college when we lived in the same dorm building. We later discovered that we lived in towns only about 20 minutes apart, so whenever we went home, I'd offer to drive her with me. After multiple trips and spending time together at school, we started dating. Both of our families are close knit, and we shared the news with them right away. I graduated a year ahead of her and returned home, where I received a good job offer with excellent pay. Whenever I had the chance, I visited her at school, and when she came home, we made sure to spend quality time together. After her graduation, she moved in with me, and we both found jobs in the city near our hometown. We've been living together for approximately 3 years, and after proposing, we've been planning our wedding. In hindsight, I realized that I overlooked many things, attributing them to my father's efforts to welcome my ex into our family. For instance, my father frequently called her, and when I was present, they would tell me they were discussing upcoming family events or similar topics. The day I found out felt like any other. Elle had Thursdays off, and she prepared breakfast for both of us. During my drive to work, I realized I had forgotten some paperwork needed for a meeting and decided to go home during lunch to retrieve it. Throughout the day, Elle texted me about ordinary couple stuff like dinner plans and doing the laundry. It didn't occur to me to let her know I was coming home for lunch, so when the time came, I simply left work and headed home. Upon arriving, I noticed a car that resembled my father's in our parking lot. However, I didn't think much of it and parked before entering our building. When I opened the door, I was greeted by a scene straight out of a cliché movie where a man comes home early and catches his spouse cheating. A trail of clothes, both his and hers, led to my bedroom, and faint moans echoed through my apartment. I stood at the door, utterly shocked, with a mix of rage, sadness, and disgust flooding my brain. It felt as though I were frozen, like a statue unable to move. When I finally snapped out of it, I grabbed my phone and began recording. Collecting scattered clothes from the floor, I tossed them into the hallway of the building. The journey to my bedroom was captured on camera, and upon entering, I switched on the lights, revealing my utter shock. It was my father in bed with her. After the initial stun, my father noticed I was recording and began to panic, desperately searching for something to cover himself while urging me to stop recording. Eventually, he found a towel and wrapped it around himself before approaching me. I warned him to stay back, but he either didn't care or didn't hear me, reaching for my phone. In response, I struck him on the jaw, causing him to slump to the ground. Elle shrieked, and I turned the camera toward her, asking if she had anything to say to her fiancé. My father woke up after a brief nap, and I informed them that I needed to pick something up for work, so I'd be leaving. I warned them that if they were still there upon my return, I'd share the video with everyone they knew. Ending the recording, I looked at my father, declared him dead to me, and suggested he go home to talk to Mom, as I would be discussing this with her soon. Sitting in my car, one of my bosses called, asking where I was. I assured her I was on my way back and handed her the paperwork when I reached her office. She noticed blood on my collar and inquired about it. I explained that it was my father's blood, showing her the video. Although she had met Elle a few times, she had never met my father. She sat in silence until realizing that my fiancé was cheating on me with my father. Offering support, she suggested I take some time off, but I insisted on continuing with the meeting. After the meeting, my boss asked how I could manage that. I simply replied that I didn't know and headed to my office. Later, when I returned home, I found myself alone for the first time in a long while, realizing that I needed to leave the apartment. I couldn't live there anymore, and sleeping in that bed was out of the question. The need to get checked for STDs crossed my mind, and I suspected I may have broken something in my hand. The events deeply affected me, and I fell into a deep depression after documenting them. For those doubting the authenticity, I genuinely wish I possessed such creativity. The day after my initial post, I attempted to reach out to my mother, but none of my calls were going through. Frustrated, I decided to drive to her house to discuss everything in person. The drive was filled with panic as I contemplated how to explain that her husband was involved with my fiancée. I had to pull over twice to vomit due to the stress. Upon arriving, I sat in my car for a few moments to collect my thoughts. When my mother flung open the front door, she berated me and accused me of being an offender. She insisted I leave, stating that my fiancé wasn't ready to forgive me. It turns out my father had falsely informed my mother about a disagreement between my fiancé and me. Unable to bear the accusations, I finally revealed the truth to my mother, showing her a video as proof. Her shock mirrored mine when I initially discovered their involvement. After sending her the video, I left without waiting for her response. Back home, I began removing everything associated with my fiancé and family from my apartment. I packed up my fiancé's belongings and placed them by the front door. I also boxed up anything related to my parents and stored it away. Despite my mother being in tears, too much had been said for me to reconsider and forgive her. In my original post, I highlighted the close-knit nature of our family, but emphasized my willingness to cut out toxic individuals. I took the step to message Elle's parents, cancel the engagement, and inform them of her infidelity, expressing gratitude for their previous support. This revelation added more pain to our relationship, and I requested them to collect all of her belongings, although I haven't received a response yet. Following my last post, I took charge of everything that needed attention, including getting tested, finding a therapist, moving, and acquiring a new bed. I initiated therapy sessions and started the testing process, awaiting results. I reached out to a friend, a real estate agent, who helped me find and move into a refurbished cabin on the outskirts of my city. After settling in, I informed Elle's parents of my move and reminded them to retrieve her belongings before the landlord started showing the apartment. This message prompted them, and my former landlord thanked me for emptying the apartment. No one except the friend who assisted me knows my new address, ensuring that neither Elle nor my parents will drop by unexpectedly. Despite the longer commute to work, my newfound solitude has turned me into somewhat of a recluse. I receive numerous texts and calls, but I'm only interested in speaking to my therapist. At work, I maintain a facade of normalcy, putting on a fake smile when necessary. My therapy sessions seem to be progressing well, even though I lack a basis for comparison. The therapist and I have established a decent rapport, and I find it easier to express myself in writing, hence sharing this with her. Hey doc, I'm still not feeling great at the moment. I had hoped to be at least okay by now, not necessarily happy, but just okay. I acknowledge that some of this is my own fault for not keeping in touch with my friends, but the idea of responding to them feels exhausting. I know they'll want to spend time together or visit my new place, but I just don't have the energy to be around them right now. Until I regain that energy, I'll focus on work, attend appointments, and relax on my back deck with some low-quality whiskey, trying to appreciate the beautiful view. I haven't gone hunting since high school, so maybe I'll take it up again now that I can hunt from my back porch. Thanks to everyone for reading this. In my previous post, I mentioned getting tested for STDs and trying to restart my life. I'm pleased to report that I am free of STDs, and I couldn't be more relieved. I have completely settled into my new place. When I described it as a refurbished cabin, I may have been a bit too generous. It was actually refurbished about 30 years ago, so it's a bit outdated. However, with my newfound free time, I decided to renovate it, and all that remains is painting the guest room, which I've turned into an office. The only tasks I didn't handle on my own were electrical and plumbing work because I lacked the knowledge, and have no desire to risk getting shocked or dealing with dirty pipes. Doing all the work has been remarkably stress relieving and has helped me clear my mind. I'm still working at the same company, and I've become more open with some of my coworkers, especially those I'm close to, and with my boss. Now, let me provide an update on what's been happening between my family and my ex. I felt ready to have a conversation with my mother, so a little over a month ago, I unblocked her number and reached out. I called, and she picked up almost instantly, though I could tell from her tone that she was in a panic. After reassuring her that it was me, I suggested we meet and talk. She agreed, and a day later, we met at a diner near her house. She was already there when I arrived, and when she saw me, she began to quietly cry. As I sat down, she repeatedly apologized, telling me she believed what she was told because she never thought they would actually get together. I expressed my appreciation for her apology, but reminded her that the things she said to me were terrible and something no mother should ever say to their child. It revealed to me how she truly felt about me. She cried even harder and promised that it wasn't true. She explained that when she was informed that I had allegedly hit my father for no reason, she was consumed by anger, and when I showed up at the house, she allowed her anger to take over. Not wanting to engage in a prolonged discussion with her, I decided to move forward. I asked, speaking of that guy, what have you decided to do with him? She explained that they've been separated. She kicked him out since the day after I sent her the video, and she immediately sought legal advice. Then we shifted our conversation to my ex. She mentioned that when I distanced myself, she went back into the house and threw them both out because she was too disgusted to look at them. We talked for about an hour in total before I left. I expressed how I had been going through a dark period in my life, and because of the hurtful things she had said to me, I felt like I didn't have my mother when I needed her. Because of that, I wasn't sure if I could have her in my life. I did mention that I was willing to work on our relationship, but it would be at my own pace. However, before I could leave, she stopped me and said she had something important to tell me. I sat back down, and she shared that Elle is pregnant. Apparently, Elle had come to the house and informed my mom. She wasn't sure if the child is mine or my father's, and Elle wanted to know if I had been in touch so she could inform me. Clearly, I hadn't been in contact, so my mom sent her away. That's the update for now. I have a lot on my mind, and I'm not sure how to navigate my emotions or what to do next. Thank you for reading, and I apologize for going on and on.